That's fine. They heard it. Ya Allah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله ذي الملك والملكوت ذي العزة والجبروت. الحمد لله حي قيوم لا ينام، عزيز لا يضام، قهار لا يرام. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. يقول الباري سبحانه وتعالى بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. We will believe, fear Allah as you should be feared, and die not except on the state of Islam. For may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most merciful, bestow upon us the gift to die on the state of Islam. Allahumma ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in many of the ayat instructing the believers to follow His command, to obey, to hear and obey, and following His command subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, in this ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, قال اتقوا الله حق تقاته, the ayat that we have tried, recited the introduction. Now, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as should be feared. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also قال الذين أتيناهم الكتاب يتلونه حق تلاوته, those who have been bestowed upon the book, they are reading it, reciting it حق تلاوته, the way it should be. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also the same aspect of effort that need to be invested in the taqwa, into the tilawa, which is listening and pondering on the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same when it comes to the jihad, the striving, قَالَ وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ, and strive in the sake of Allah the way it should be, the way it works, the way that befit His greatness and befit this great endeavor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon us as a gift and instructed us and recommended us to do it. Therefore we have حق التلاوة, حق التقوى, وحق الجهاد. Subhanallah. So all of it haq, which is mean like the most invested possible you're doing this action, it becomes haq. So when you have haq al-tilawa, the right way and the worth way, the most befitted way to your way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to recite, to understand, and then to show piety and fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then to strive to fulfill the objective. These three elements help you to attain what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال أولئك هم المؤمنون حقا. These are the true believers. These are the true believers. Therefore, a haqqiyya to say the worth of the thing, the way that the person needs to do it, he has to invest, and this investment is in effort, That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he say haqqa tuqati, what it means to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way that it should be. Impossible that we can comprehend such a thing. How can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the way it should be? The angels that would be worshipping Allah all their entire existence, either in a state of ruku' or prostration, and then when it comes the end, when the trumpet will subhanallah, will sound and will be blown, everything will stop. They will lift their hands from either ruku' or whatever prostration they have been doing, prostration or ruku' and ibadah, and they were saying, Ya Allah, ma abadnaka haqqa ibadatik. Ya Allah, we have not worshipped you the way that it should be, that it worth your greatness, Ya Allah. So how a human being, subhanallah, all the time distracted, all the time we have all, subhanallah, the shortcoming, will be asked to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to worship Allah the way it should be. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the meaning that you put all your effort, all your ability, that's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clarified for us in Surah Al-Taghabun. قَالَ فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Fear Allah as much as you can, as much as you're able to. Therefore, حق التلاوة وحق الجهاد وحق التقوى is to put all your effort to listen to the words of Allah with the present heart and attentive ear, and subhanallah, and this attentive ear and attentive heart, a heart that is alive, to understand the meaning. Therefore, you ponder in it, you embrace it, you know the guidance, the guidelines, you implement them. That's how you're going to gain the haqq al-taqwa. And then you try to fulfill them and perform them and achieve the goals related to it, that is haqq al-jihad. This is then, you're going to be entitled to have the title of al-mu'min al-haq. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala qala, أُولَئِكَ هُمُ الْمُؤْمِنُ الْحَقَّ. Those are the true believers. When you read such an ayah at the beginning of the Surah Al-Anfal, don't you want to be a true believer? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the specification, the characteristic, the attribute of these true believers. Because if you're not true believers, alhamdulillah, we are believers. As the scholar saying, true believers, it does not mean that if you're not true believer, you are a kafir. But if you're not a true believer, you have a lot of shortcomings. You have a thing. You might from the people be from those who are worshipping Allah on edge. If something good is happening, is closer to Allah, and something bad happened to them, they turn away and they're like, subhanAllah, complaining all the time, trying to run away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do not even want to remember Allah. Why? Because they didn't have a good thing that they have been asked, and they feel like, subhanAllah, somehow being neglected or betrayed. These people are not believers. They have a lot of shortcoming. They have an issue and defect in their belief. Therefore, as a believer, want to be true believers, you have to bring all what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did at the level of the ability that will be really worth, and the ability of yourself, how much you put effort to get to the taqwa, to understand the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to make the right jihad. قال Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ, and strive in the sake of Allah the ways that should be, and fear Allah the way it should be, as it should be feared, and subhanallah, recite or like listening to the ayat of Allah and study the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala haqqa tilawati, the way that it helps you to get all those meanings, so you can transform them and translate them into action and behavior, but performing and acting upon. Now, we're saying this because we are in Eid. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed upon us such a gift in Ramadan to gain piety. And this gaining of piety, we had it as a gift. It's not because we are good, we come to the masjid and we're fasting that we gain it. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it to be a gift for you. Therefore, you gained piety not because you chose, you said, I'm going to gain piety this month. No, the worship that Allah has obligated on you make you to gain this piety. Therefore, when we're talking about this, the siyam, and we still have, subhanAllah, the taste of the sweetness of reading the Quran, of, subhanAllah, reciting, of listening, of praying, of fasting, of breaking the fast, and it is the celebration of faith that we have. It's the celebration of the increase of piety. The question, how are you going to preserve it? How are you going to safeguard that piety? Because it's like a gem, it's like some great treasure. If you're not going to take care of it, it's going to evaporate, it's going to go away. And this is, subhanAllah, what you want, what you do, as a believer, what you refuse to happen. However, there is some miscommunication, I will say misunderstanding in certain aspect, who's really avoiding or preventing us of saving the taqwa that we have gained. So how can we have this taqwa? How can we have this taqwa to take us to the next level? How we can have this taqwa to help us be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How can have this taqwa to keep increasing our iman? How can we? How can we invest it? How can we invest it? We already, passed, mashallah, the second day or after the Eid, and subhanAllah, things are changing, because you know that in Ramadan you have the upper hand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has locked the shayateen, had made it easy for you yourself. You come to the masjid, you're driving and you don't know, you feel good about driving it. You cannot do it today. You cannot do it. Because somehow you became busy. Somehow you became very busy. So you cannot do the way that you've been doing it in Ramadan. So you see Taysir Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what He had made it easier for you, and He grant you al-iman wal-ihtisab, to seek the reward of Allah, to seek His nearness. He gave you this taqwa into your heart. Such a great gift that is a guest. If you do not honor it, it will go away. Now, the question is, are the actions that we have done in Ramadan, let's say, the number of the question, the quantities, is what is required to preserve this taqwa? You used to pray more than usual. You used to read Quran, mashallah, more than usual, which is good, great. But that is a gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to you. Staying on the same level, staying on the same, let's say, rhythm, it is what is required to safeguard the taqwa that you have gained, and to make you a true believers, to make you to have that haqq al-tilawa wa haqq al-mujahada wa haqq al-taqwa. It's not possible. It's a fact. It's a reality. It's not possible. And who's telling us this? Is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. قال لكل عمل شرة ولكل شر فترة. Every action started by great enthusiasm, by being active, being so refreshed, being, subhanAllah, racing for it. And then after that enthusiasm is going to be succeeded by, subhanAllah, kind of loss of eagerness, and then kind of, subhanAllah, laziness. So it's a nature in us. Therefore, if we're going to count on the quantity, then we're going to lose it with no doubt the taqwa that we have gathered. Then we're going to, subhanAllah, maybe regress and being in a situation worse than we were before Ramadan. Now when we're thinking about the quantity, what it happened? What it happened? What do you think about it? He said, subhanAllah, I've been to use I finished the whole Quran. I did such a page, and I was it didn't make it, take me time. Now it feel like it's taking me a long time. And you're trying to do it, then you cannot do it. It's a fact. The problem when we blame ourselves, the problem when you embrace that shortcoming, that is the problem. Why? Because it's going to have a deep negative impact on your psyche. On your psychology, you're going to feel like, subhanAllah, it's like, am I a munafiq? Why am I doing this? Then you try to run away. Run away from who? You don't run away from your inner self. You don't even have to inner conversation, and run away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let it be as it was. And then you're going to lose everything. That beautiful taqwa that you have stored during, and Allah honored you with you in Ramadan, is going to go. It's going to evaporate. Why? Because you feel have a lot of shortcoming. I used to do this in Ramadan, and I feel without even saying it to yourself. And that feeling of kind of depression, which is happened to me, subhanAllah, I've been reading about this for the last few years, how Muslims, they get depressed after Ramadan. Subhanallah, the people who do their, Christmas and everything, after those festivities, all of them, they feel depressed. How come a Muslim become depressed after Ramadan? Why? Because we have this miscommunication. We have this lack of understanding. Because we are pointing ourselves, you're not a good person. How can you do all this in Ramadan and after Ramadan suddenly you don't even go to the masjid? No, that's not the point. That's how, subhanAllah, you are threatening yourself. You are causing all this negative thing into you to make you run away from yourself and then lose the gift of the taqwa that Allah gave you. So what should we do? What we should do, you have to embrace it as is. But the taqwa is not to invest in the quantity. The taqwa needs to be invested in the quality. What is this quality? You have to invest it into your heart, because the taqwa is as an essence and effect that it has in the heart. You're not going to translate it into action. You might not be able to. You might not be able to. So where are you going to? You're going to pour it. You're going to multiply the action of the heart. And the core action of the heart is the glorification of Allah. That's how you're going to use your taqwa. If you want to use it and invest it and make you, subhanAllah, to be raised high, to be from the true believers, you're going to put it there. The Prophet ﷺ in hadith, he said, Abu Bakr he didn't advance you with more prayer and more fasting. He advanced you with the thing that it has in his heart. Therefore, the taqwa that you have gained in Ramadan, do not like to mimic what you had in Ramadan. You say, I need to read Quran. More you read Quran and you're not focused, that Quran is going to be like something against you. It's not going to make you happy. And if you don't feel happy, then you didn't have good experience. Then you're not going to go back to the Quran. But you take this taqwa and you invest it into your heart, in the glorification, in subhanAllah, praising Allah, in looking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as subhanAllah so tremendous, so great. This is how you're going to have the taqwa. That's how you invest the taqwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He reminds us or telling us about the attribute of the true believers, He didn't say they pray much. He said when the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioned before them, their heart tremble. That's what we need. We need this taqwa to tremble our heart when you hear the name of Allah. You need the taqwa when you listen to the words of Allah. The gift that has been given to you, it needs to increase you in your iman, because that is the haqq tilawa, that is the true recitation, the true study of the book of Allah. That is the true taqwa. When you hear the name of Allah, the King, the one, subhanAllah, you don't have anything except what Allah gave you. So how come you hear the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like anything, any other name? Subhanallah, people, when they are in a tyrant-like, environment, when they hear the name of the tyrant clothes, they get scared. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the King of the King, that He owns everything you have. Even the breathing that you make in and the air that you're breathing is ownership of His greatness subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the taqwa when we need to put it. We have said into the khutbah al-Eid, the element to keep you the balance is two things. We said the prayer, and we have extracted from, as pondering in Surah Maryam. So the first thing, those who have been bestowed upon the gift, the first thing that they have done to lose that gift is they lost and they get distracted from the prayer. So after Ramadan, the only thing that you have to do, just hold on your prayer. The second thing, keep coming back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the tawbah, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, those who lost themselves by neglecting the prayer, they will find ghayy. Al-ghayy is dalal, and the ghayy is also the punishment. However, except those who repent. Therefore, you have your balance is going to be kept, inshallah, after Ramadan. If you are really serious, if you really love Allah, if you really care about yourself, two things, prayer and istighfar. However, the prayer and this forgiveness and the repentance need to be implemented in one, subhanAllah, aspect, not in quantity. You have to implement it to increase your glorification with Allah. You have to stand with ta'zeem. When you stand, how blessed you are. You're going to say Allahu Akbar. To who? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're going to be entering in the live meeting. That is the ta'zeem. That is what you need to bring from Ramadan as a great achievement, to put it into your salah, into this perspective. Not I'm going to make like, Qiyamul Layl, I'm going to make, 13 rak'ah tonight. You make 2 rak'ah. With this ta'zeem, it equal like the whole week Qiyamul Layl. Why? Because you have tasted the meaning of the connection. That's where you need to invest your taqwa. Therefore, when it comes, subhanAllah, to invest it, the taqwa becomes fear of Allah. The recitation becomes pondering and listening to Allah. And the mujahadah becomes like fulfilling the objective. How can I have more glorification in the heart for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How can I come to the point with the taqwa that I have gained to invest it for my heart to tremble, to really see the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you try to put it into practical action, I'll take some of your time. It's Eid. It's a great day. It's the great days. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had given this great gift in his guidance. He said, whoever who follow Ramadan with 6 days of Shawwal. So 6 days you're going to be fasting the whole time, all your life. Look, people always, being in a materialistic world, you said, oh, alhamdulillah, my life is going to be all fasting. No, the 6 days is not only for that. The 6 days is to take them to ponder, to take that taqwa, how to invest it. Make that day of fasting of Shawwal, how you're going to build the ta'zeem of Allah when you are in prayer. How you're going to really kind of increase that glorification, that humility that you into the salah when you are in contact, in communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To do that, we need 3 steps, 3 things, and then another aspect. The 3 things in your relation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how to increase the ta'zeem, how you increase your awe toward Allah, how your heart will be trembling when you're thinking of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are very practical steps. The first one is, whatever happened to you, there's no one or the origin of this. Al-Musabbib huwa Allah. Anything that happens, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is going to secure your heart and make you only to look to Allah. Because when you lose some money, people they say, oh, the market was not good. Yeah, the market. But go back, is Allah. Is a rizq between you and Allah. When someone gets sick, or one of his members said, oh, they should not went, it was cold outside, they catch a cold. Look, now he's given us like the kid in a heart. No, it's from Allah. Why you are giving these excuses? Why you are destroying the taqwa in your heart? Just turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and ask Him to heal your kid, to heal you. Why you are looking forward for such a thing? That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, قُلْ لَن يُصِيبَنَا إِلَّا مَا كَتَبَ اللَّهُ. This is a practical creed. Only befall on us what Allah has written for us. The Prophet ﷺ, he taught us the treasure of the Jannah. What is the word of the treasure of the Jannah? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So imagine when you say La hawla wa quwwata illa billah, it's not empty words. It's a word that's going to help you to glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more, because you are recognizing more your ability and how limited and how poor. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أَنْتُ الْفُقَرَى. You are the very poor to Allah and dependent to Allah. The second one is when you look at your relation to Allah subhanahu with Allah, you do not have any right on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not think that you have a right. You said, I prayed, Allah has to give me a reward. I didn't do shirk, Allah has to give me. Has? What has? You don't have anything. You don't own anything. The iman, the faith you have is a guess and a gift from Allah. Everything you have, from head to toe, from everything around it, what is under the ground, above you, around you, is all belong to Allah, including you. There, subhanAllah, this is what is going to increase that glorification. Had it not been the mercy of Allah, the bounty of Him, all of us will be following the shaitan. Allah said it. Had it not been the mercy of Allah and His grace, all of us who cannot be even purified. Therefore, this is giving more humility, increase, subhanAllah, that fact of glorification to Allah. And the third aspect, whatever Allah choose for you, do not dispute it. It's good for you. It might be hurtful, but it's good, because you don't know. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ, when you say the dua, to take away the anguish from your heart, to take away the anxiety from your heart, the dua, how it started. You say, oh Allah, make the Quran the spring of the life of my heart, and Ya Allah, to remove all my anguish and my distress and so on. Look at the beginning of the dua. قَالَ مَاضٍ فِيَ حُكْمُكَ عَدْلٌ فِيَ قَضَاءٍ. Pass in me your judgment, Ya Allah. And it is full and just whatever happened to me. That's the submission. That's the glorification. So if you bring these 3 aspects, dear brother, respected sister, together in your relation with Allah, that's how you start to know better Allah and know yourself. And that taqwa, because that taqwa helps you to focus, that you gain in Ramadan, especially in the days that inshallah you're going to fast. You can make it. You can make it. It's something like inshallah easy. Easy, bi'idhnillah, with the help of Allah, of course. Then the next step, dear brother, is ask yourself, what do you want in this world? What do you want? What is your objective? Your objective is going to define your irada, your intention, your willpower, your drive. Your drive, therefore, if you're truly looking forward to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to please with you, to accept you, then your irada, this, you have to destroy the shahwa, the desire that subhanAllah make you to live a low self. And the desire, or like an intention and a willpower, help you to not be heedless. This is how you elevate your intention, you elevate your willpower, you elevate your drive. A very small example to finish with this part. One of the biggest desire is the desire of the children. Desire of children, loving children, subhanAllah. You see people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala choose for them to not have children, they always making dua, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give children to everyone who asks for it. Ibrahim alayhi salam, after he felt like they triumph, after he's been saved from the fire, he said, oh Allah, give me a child. I want a righteous child. I want a child with me. And he was 19 years old. The question, yeah, Ibrahim, do you want the child for yourself or for Allah? If we give you the child, are you going to love him more than you love Allah? There's pagans around you, ya Ibrahim. They're sacrificing their kids for their false gods. Will you do it for your Lord? That's, subhanAllah, the big taqwa. That's the haqq al-taqwa. Of course, ya Allah, because you are more merciful to my child than me. Even I'm going to slaughter him with my own hand. That is destroying, abasing, putting under your feet your shahwa. Why? Because your Lord is the highest. That's the ta'zeem. That's the ta'zeem. The Prophet ﷺ in Ghazwat Badr, you know all the steps of it. They were ready, they were in the battlefield. But where the Prophet was? Where was he? He was making dua, begging Allah. That's the ta'zeem, that's the glorification. That's the humility. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, He didn't say because you are a believer. He said, He answered you after your dua. Which is me, like subhanAllah, the only thing that you read in Surah Al-Anfal, to bring Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to bring the Nasr, it was the begging of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at the last minute. And everyone was united, everyone was ready. That is the ta'zeem. That's when you know nothing can happen except by the bounty, the grace of Allah, and we do not have any right in it. And when he was entering Mecca, alayhi salatu wasalam, he was entering and making sujood on his mount, making sujood as glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in contrast, look, the people of Musa, when they've been asked to enter the town, they were arrogant, they were mocking, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent on them the punishment till now. And that's the glorification, how you use it, as you use the taqwa to build that glorification, to honor yourself. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to invest the taqwa we gained in Ramadan in the right perspective, to help us be close to Allah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على النبي المصطفى أما بعد. Acknowledging our reality, and it is the way how to know ourselves. And knowing ourselves, it's really open our eyes and our heart to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And by knowing the greatness of Allah, you're going to be, subhanAllah, closer to Him, more in us whose greatness, more holding Him with higher and higher esteem. And that is the soul of the worship. The soul of the worship. You don't need to make 100 rak'ah to get there. Wallahi, one tasbihah, one tear comes on one part of your cheek, it will be great enough for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shower you with His mercy, because you were sincere in glorifying Him. And that's where the taqwa need to go. Not in multiplying the reading of the Quran. That's great. But you might not be able to do it, so why blaming yourself? That's our nature. We are weak, sensitive. Everything, subhanAllah, make us think like, take your time, make everything make you hurt. Even some small message, one like maybe misspelled, and you say, why he's saying this? And you feel like hurt. Why I was hurt? And then when you look back, say, maybe that message. You just, see an image, it make you hurt. We are so sensitive, we are so weak. So to continue in the way how we were in Ramadan, that it does not make sense. That's why, subhanAllah, blaming ourselves and seeing as a shortcoming, that is going to have a deep impact on our nafs, on our psychology, and trying to run away and find ourselves in the nest of the shaitan. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you, I didn't ask you that. The Prophet ﷺ said, look, this is your nature. But put your taqwa in what to help you to be closer to Allah. Even just اذكروا الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوب. Allah subhanAllah, while you're standing, while subhanAllah laying down, are you praying? You are laying down and you remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How beautiful it is. That is the true believers. If you take one action, dear brother, respected sisters, to reflect who we are, to reflect, are we serious in investing this taqwa? Is one action. Is your state of sujood. Look at yourself when you are in sujood. You want to finish it. You want to just go back to sit. You're going to wait taslim, make salam, or you want to invest more in talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is the relief for the anxiety. When the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to his Prophet, we know that it hurt your feeling. We know. قَدْ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّهُ لَا يَحْزُنَكَ. It makes you so sad. Then celebrate the praises of Allah and be from the sajideen, the healing in the sujood. We'll see you how you go on, subhanallah, into your sujood. قال النخرة, when you stand, وَتَقَلُّبَكَ, how you are, subhanallah, turning yourself into your sujood. He said about those, subhanallah, only believe in our ayat when they remember, when they are reminded with the ayat of Allah, they fall into prostration. إِنَّمَا يُؤْمِنُوا بِآيَاتِ الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِّرُوا بِهَا خَرُّوا سُجَّدًا. And I can give you many of the ayat. It all goes back to the sujood, which define your true, real existence. When you see in your sujood, that is your state. Because the shaitan, he promised that he's going to attack you from the forefront, behind you, from the back, from the side, the right and from the left, just to disturb you, to distract you, to have you doubt about aqidah, about rizq, about, push you to do ill sins. But he didn't say he's going to come above you and beneath you. Why? Because he said, I will do all this except for those who are mukhlisin, sincere. Who are the sincere one? Who keep the right to really use that part of the beneath, which is the sujood, that the shaitan cannot get close to it. And the rahmah comes to you from above, that he cannot intercede it. And look at yourself. You become from ibad Allah al-mukhlasin. You have the ability with the taqwa you gained in Ramadan, with investing it into the glorification of Allah, portray it into your sujood. You're going to become from the shaitan and say, oh, those guys, I cannot get close to them. إِلَّا إِبَادَكَ مِنْهُمُ الْمُخْلَصِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, of course, هَذَا صِرَاطٌ عَلَيَّ مُسْتَقِيمٌ. Are you not, insha'Allah, able to do that? Make it, this is the true Eid. This is the Eid. It's not to eat and drink only, that's Eid, but really to absorb this beautiful taqwa that you gain in Ramadan, to turn it into glorification, and you portray it in your sujood. So your sujood, you will be, subhanAllah, your identity, and you'll be measured. Look at yourself, your sujood. You're going to see how close to Allah or not. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to have our taqwa that we gained by the bliss of Allah, by the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to invest it in His glorification, in His ta'zeem, in His humility, in His khudu', and then to help us have deeper sujood that it get us to be from the mukhlasin. Allahumma ij'alna min ibadika al-mukhlasin, waj'alna min ibadika al-mukhlisin. Allahumma ij'alna min ibadika al-mu'minina haqqa ya rabbal alamin. فارزقنا حق الجهاد وحق التلاوة وحق التقوى يا أرحم الراحمين يا أكرم الأكرمين. اللهم ثبتنا بعد رمضان واجعلنا يا أرحم الراحمين من عبادك الصالحين. اجعلنا من عبادك الصالحين. اللهم احفظ إخواننا في غزة. اللهم احفظهم بحفظك يا رب العالمين، وأنزل عليهم رحماتك، أنزل عليهم سكينتك، أسكن اليقين في قلوبهم، آمن روعاتهم. اللهم استر عوراتهم، نفس عنهم الغم يا رب العالمين، اشف مرضاهم وتقبل قتلاهم عندك في الشهداء، وانصر مجاهديهم واخذل الأعداء يا أرحم الراحمين يا رب العالمين. إنك أنت القوي العزيز، دمر الظالمين فإنهم لا يعجزونك. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأقيم الصلاة يرحمكم الله.